The keyword in the vocabulary of the Indian motorcyclist come April 1 is going to be BS. It's not the BS you're thinking, we're talking about the Bharat stage, our emissions norms. And let me give you a perspective here. If this was BS1, what you were allowed to emit into the air, BS1, BS2, BS3, BS4, BS6. It's a big change. And the problem with big changes is a good product could become terrible or a good product could become amazing. It depends on you. Today here we have the new 2020 Apaches. This is the RTR 160, that's the RTR 200. That's 7,500 rupees more than before. That's 10,000 rupees more than before. Now the question I really want the answer to is, have these two motorcycles, considered to be the best in class, remember, have they become heavier and slower, or have they become better?
The sheer tightness as well as the staggering difference between BS4 and BS6 means that the motorcycles gain a lot more than heavier and fatter exhaust pipes and cleaner emissions. The big change is the headlight unit. I'm not a fan, but this is the trend in the sporty naked world right now. And TVS's design team has created a dramatic headlight that has very bright LEDs which sit in a much lighter unit. Under the new but familiar lines are new body panels that are larger to require fewer mounting points and small tweaks that achieve what I had thought would be impossible. The weight of the 160 has not changed, though the 200 is 3 kg heavier. The 160 also loses less than 1 PS and 1 Newton meter in output, whereas the 200 loses only 1.3 Newton meters of peak torque. But despite all of that, the RTR 160, the bike I rode first, felt familiar and largely unchanged. The engine note is a little more gruff, and that's really it. You cannot really feel the drop in performance, the frame itself has not changed at all, and it makes the 160 what it already was. One of the sweetest, good-natured commuters on sale in its class. There were literally only two bones to pick. First, the softness of the suspension, which makes the ride quality marvelous, also makes the motorcycle nervous in high-speed cornering. And ridden very hard, the 160's brakes also feel like they needed more bite and power. But I'm happy with the setup TVS has chosen. Most 160 owners do not ride like this 99.99% of the time.
So the 160 is interesting to ride because it has a lot of very nice qualities as a commuter. It's very refined, the suspension is really soft, and on the other side it's got that little spark that makes motorcycles special. And meeting the BS6 version, well, it's like an old friend got new clothes, and in that sense,
the 160 set the expectations for the 200, and visually, I love the black paint job on the new skin. But on the motorcycle, you immediately feel at home. Again, the 200's refinement is a little bit lower, but nothing that I would complain about. But the stiffer suspension, grippy tires and the enthusiastic engine make the 200 a fun bike to ride. Which is exactly how I remember the BS4 200 as well. The extra performance also made the brakes on the 200 fade during a test ride, and that was once again in no-holds-barred hard riding. The other thing on the 200 are the Bluetooth features which work via a display not unlike the one on the NTORQ scooter. The TVS app now also supplies a live lean angle display. Its accuracy depends on your phone, but I think a maximum lean number in the app after your ride is safer than a live display. But the RTR handles navigation via the TVS app, and it all works neatly enough. In sum, the 200 is all the things it already was: fast, agile, responsive and involving.
the big question for the RTR 200 is, what are you paying 10,000 rupees for? Technically, you're paying about 1,500 bucks, maybe 2,000 bucks more than the old bike, and for that you're going to get a radial tire at the back, and that's a very, very important improvement. And you're going to get the Bluetooth features that get added to your instrument console, and they run off your phone and the TVS app and all of those things, and I think that price is justified. The rest of the 8,000 bucks, unfortunately, is what it costs to get a motorcycle like this to meet BS6, and there's no way for anyone to avoid that price. So if you think this thing just became 10,000 rupees more expensive, just wait till April. Everything is about to become more expensive. Love BS6 now.
A BS4 bike that's already fuel injected should see a rise of about Rs 3,000 in this class thanks to BS6. But motorcycles coming from carburetors to fuel injection for BS6, those will hit about Rs 8,000 more. But let's face it, our vehicles do need to get cleaner, and this hill will only get steeper to climb.
I'm happy to report that the 160 and 200 are both just as nice and just as engaging to ride as they were before.
TVS has done a good job. This update keeps the best of the motorcycles, updates the styling, adds a handful of features and meets the new norms. Both the Ducati Panigale V2 and the RTRs here show that the manufacturers can engineer their way to new motorcycles that are as effective or more in the face of tighter norms.
It also tells us what the price difference for a BS6 bike is going to be, and it's going to be about 8,000 bucks for a bike of this class. In the case of the 200, the price goes up further because they've also added the radial tire and the connectivity features. But the important thing is, I was worried that your BS6 bike was going to be slower and heavier than before, and that's not the case. So the conclusion of this story is, thank God. Thank God.